everybody, it's Lynn. Welcome back. Tonight we're going to do July, and I can hardly believe it, August as well. So it's going to be a twofer. July is deep midnight blue on the bottom, country red stripes on the top, Rookwood red added to it, or I think it's the reverse, Rookwood red, then country red stripes. Really easy. I wanted to quickly show you. Probably some of you have concerns about the getting the smoothness, the softness of a larger area wash. So let me go over that really quickly. I've got to make sure I'm on camera here. I'm notorious for going off screen. Okay, so I did one light wash on this side, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the number 8 Ultra Round, right? I'm going to wet it. I'm going to blot it once on a paper towel just to get a little bit of that water out. And again, I don't really know until I actually put the brush down if I've got enough water, enough paint. It's that kind of thing. You just have to tweak it. Play with it as you go. So I'm going to hold it sideways and hold my brush parallel, flat in the middle. I know it's an awkward angle, but that's how I hold it. As a refresher, go on my website, guys. I'm telling you, there's a little instructional video, how to load the brushes, what brushes I use, how to use them. You can go back and watch it as many times as you want. So what you just saw was I was busy chatting, just took the blue, deep midnight blue, across the top, and I'm pressing down all the way on my brush. And that way I cover a large area. When I did the other side, what I did was taper it in towards the bottom here, so that when I'm going to use a bigger stippler brush and a straight up and down stipple. The tapering, I mean, that way it blends in seamlessly rather than having to worry about, matching up completely to a really dark edge. So now, when I stippled, I get the over stippling onto my buttermilk, and I'm fine with that. I would much rather get this part smooth and soft looking than come back with the buttermilk and touch that part up. Just so much easier. So I'm going to give it a quick dry. Brushes are flying, my paper's flying. I'm going to do it one more time. Make sure your piece is not hot when you go to put your wash on there, because you will bake it on there. Okay, so I'm going to come right back in again. Press down. The more light layers you add, I'm going to pick up a little tiny bit more paint this time. The more light layers you add, the more blended and soft this piece is going to look. And that's true with my technique on pretty much everything that I paint. Now, if you wanted to base coat this a solid deep midnight blue, you absolutely can. Is it going to have the same look as the painted samples? No, it's just going to be a little more intense. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine if that's what you want. Okay, one more time. Hold on. Okay, so what I would do is do this one more time, one more wash of deep midnight to get to, I know this probably looks dark on the camera. I'm going to try and raise it a little bit and see if you can see. It's definitely transparent, but on the heavier side, if that even makes sense. But again, it kind of lends itself to the whole soft looking feeling. So now I'm going to come back in and I'm going to pick up some buttermilk on the tip of my number 4 and just clean up this edge. I have a little bit of water on my brush just so I'm not fighting with the paint and it kind of flows evenly and smoothly. I just feel like I'm a lazy painter and I just want things to happen fast and smooth. So I think that's a lot of the reason why I use water. Okay, our little penguins. I love, love, love little penguins. They're so cute. So we're going to start with the sky. And if you wanted to do your sky and your grass first, then transfer your pattern on the little penguins on after, you could. It doesn't really matter, only that once your pattern's on there and you do the wash on top, you're kind of locked into it and you can't erase any transfer lines. So I'm going to pick up the number 8. I loaded it with water. I'm sticking the tip into the deep midnight blue. I hope you can see how super transparent this is, how watered down it is. And I'm going to come across the very top edge and press down on my bristles all the way. So basically, just a couple of swipes across, and I've got the sky color on there. When I say mop, it's really more of a stipple. And it's not so much that I'm trying to take the paint off as I'm just trying to soften and blend. I mean, inevitably, paint will come off. This is a smaller duster stippler that I've had for a while. Wipe the excess off. You could use a mop, but I think the bristles are almost too soft. Hold on, I'm going to dry. And I'm going to show you one more time because that's what I would do. I would definitely, I've lost my brush. Hang in there. I would definitely do it one more time. Sometimes you can get away with one layer, but more often than not, 2 light washes. Now, if you notice, I'm concentrating on the color on the top edge and just kind of lightly walking up back in. Wet my brush, duster stippler, straight up and down stipple. Now I'm only doing the middle. I don't really want to remove any of that paint around the edge, so I'm coming in about at least, ½ inch maybe from the edge. This is the section I'm trying to get mopped. I'm going to dry it. Doesn't dry as fast when the hair dryer's on low. So I've thoroughly enjoyed seeing your, whoa, I just knocked my paint palette off. Seeing your posts, guys, on Facebook and what you've got completed. And some of you have even finished. My goodness, I'm so in awe of you. Hats off, fantastic job. And for those of you that haven't started or are just starting, hang in there. You know, it's fun. We don't judge. Judge-free zone. And everybody's so helpful. It's great. It's a great community. Okay, plantation pine. Same thing as the deep midnight blue. Flip your piece upside down. Make sure I'm on camera. And I'm going to, the reason I do that is because I want the darker edge across the bottom. So plantation pine's a transparent color anyway, so mop that up about 1/3 of the way. I pray I don't have a lot of blue on here. It's about, oh, I hate it when I get little paint buggers. That's about what I want. This is actually maybe even darker than I would prefer, but a good hint. Hold on. A good hint is that something like this, if you feel it's darker than what you want it to be, what you can do is dry brush some buttermilk right on the center and kind of soften it, and that'll, you know, bring it back and give it some life, some light. So now I'm going to switch to my number 4 ultra round. I'm going to wet it, blot it just once, pick up some buttermilk, load it the same way. This time I'm going to come in and fill in the little banner. Now, when I'm working on a small area like this, and it is small, obviously I'm in on the tip, so I hold the brush down on the ferrule so I can really control where I want that paint and get nice crisp little lines. But you obviously have to control the amount of water that's in there. So if you had too much water, you'd put your tip down and it would just puddle out, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go a little faster than I normally would just for the sake of time. I am going to try and get the 2 videos in tonight because Hoot's coming up and I'm losing my mind trying to get ready for it. And I've been guilt-ridden that I've neglected you guys, blah, blah, blah. But it's true. So I thought maybe if I'm lucky, we've also been having a little bit of tech difficulty with the downloading of the videos. So we've upgraded, and tonight's the true test. We're going to see if it makes our life a little easier as far as getting them to you in a more timely manner. Now I'm going to go in on the little guys, little penguins. This is pretty transparent. This is just so that we don't see any blue wash through the color we're going to be putting on the penguins, which is slate gray. Seems like lately all I've been doing is painting animals and letters. And this guy, and then I'm also going to do the little flag. You know what, maybe I shouldn't be taking the time to do all this, but, well, I've committed, so let's just finish. And, I mean, it really shouldn't take you any longer than that. If you've got enough water on there, again, you know, it's still transparent. You'll still want to see your transfer lines through these washes. If you can't, then you're probably not using enough water. The same token, if you go to mop and you lift everything, then you need a little more paint. I really should be using a small mop for this. This is the Maxine's 1/4 inch. I believe it's been discontinued. I know. I can't believe it either. I'm glad I have like a million of them. You're welcome, Maxine. Okay. Quick dry. All right, so I'll show you really quick the little penguins. Slate gray wash. Watered down, obviously. Everything's pretty much watered down. Really only have to do up to the neck part or the head part, really. I'm not sure you can even see this because it's so light and it's similar to the sky color, but I'm just lightly washing their body, or his body. I'm only going to do one in the slate gray. Okay, now I'm going to pick up the 1/4 inch. And again, I call it mopping, but it's really, really stippling. And I'm just kind of tapping it to not remove the paint, but just to blend and soften. You know, and I am picking up a little paint, but that's just, you know, inevitable. Okay, so he gets a white, titanium white stipple. This is the number 4 scumbler. So I'm going to, and it's dry. So I'm going to load it with white, work it in really good, abuse the bristles, and I'm going to do a straight. I am going to blot that a couple of times or dab some of that excess paint off. I'm going to come in and do a straight up and down stipple on his tummy, if you can see the sample. And it's okay if you get a little on the head part because that is going to have a white wash anyway. I mean, I'm barely applying any pressure. Just a very soft, fluffy, white stipple. Okay. Good idea to clean these brushes immediately because the paint dries inside them. The bristles, you can clean them, but it's a bear. So, quick dry. Going to wash his little head. It's easier for me to do the whole head in white. Probably be easier for you to see also. So again, if you look, I mean, I am down on the tip. So there's not a whole lot of water in here, but there's enough so that the paint's moving around easily. I need a mop, just lightly. I just can't bear brush strokes. That's like my pet peeve. So give that a dry. I think I need to dry it more, which means on high. hurting my fingers. I'm pretty whiny tonight, aren't I? Gosh, I'm so tired. I was out in the studio all day painting and prepping, and prep. Oh, not my favorite thing in the whole world. If you know me, then you know I try and con all my friends into doing it for me. I think I'm going to take the pencil and lightly sketch in my lines here. There's a little bit of a space between the black and the white, and then it kind of comes in, a little curve, comes in, nose, eye. Okay, I got it. You would think I know, seeing how I painted it. And a tiny bit of water, again, so I'm not fighting with this. I don't have a lot of water on here, but enough so that I'm, again, if I started to struggle with the, movement of the paint, I would just immediately stop and pick up a little more water. I hope I'm on camera. It goes right across the bottom. I feel sometimes like I'm painting with one bristle of the brush. Okay, now I'm going to pick up, I still have the black on my brush, I'm picking up a little bit of white. I should try this. And right in this little section here in the middle, it's like a little gray area to make the little beak. So the only other thing, really, I need to do is to come in around the outside of it. And I floated around the outside of it, this little penguin with deep midnight blue. So the same way I load all the time. Obviously, you don't need to do it around the head because that's black and that shows up good. But this is what's going to make his little body pop out against the background sky color. And while I'm doing it, I might as well just continue along down around the little banner, because eventually that's going to have that float around it as well. And I'm going to extend that across his body, which is the bottom of the banner. I need a tiny bit more paint. A lot of times with the Ultra, you don't need to go back and add more water. It usually holds enough. It's more like I'll come in and just kind of tip it into the paint, like I just did, and when I go back and forth like that, I'm kind of actually mixing the paint and the water as I go. And I use my finger to mop because I'm incredibly lazy, as you know. And across the top. Now, you could pick up a little bit of black with this if you wanted to. Okay, I really don't want to spend a super lot of time on this. I feel like I've lost some of the whiteness, so I'm going to come back in. You could either re-stipple or just kind of tap in a little white with your brush, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Antique gold wash on the little flag, dry it, float around the outside of it, and write your word obey on it. I will show you a couple of the stripes. So, Rickwood red, watered down. I mean, very, very, very watered down. So that's on the top. So I'll come in on my tip because it's this tiny little area here. And as I go, I'm going to press down. Pressing down on the bristles and then coming back up onto the tip again. Can do it the other way because it's always a little bit darker where you start out. So and there's a little bit of red on the little piece that's hanging down, and that's on either side. I'll do a whitewash in the center and then the deep midnight blue across the bottom. And I honestly think this is kind of an easy one, and I hope you love it. I hope you love painting it. We're going to move right into August, okay? Oh, don't forget the two little eyes on the little guy. Okay, August. my crows, my crazy crows. They're so simple to do. They're just a black, a heavy black wash. When I say heavy, it's more paint than water. So, you know, it's still definitely considered transparent, but it's a heavier transparency. So I think you can pretty much figure out it's not rocket science. And you do your black wash, let it dry, and then you're going to come in with the tip of your brush. You could probably use a number 2 ultra round for this, which do I have one here? Of course not. No, that would be way too put together. But anyway, white, and then I just come in and I just add a few little lines to imply the wing, little white eye. I can't remember, moon yellow beak, I think, a little black dot. Sometimes, you know, you can take a little bit of burnt umber and wrap it around the beak. But what I really want to show you is the sunflower. Okay, so here we are. I only did one guy on here. Whispering Turquoise is the color that I used for the background. I'm so lazy. I mix it right on my piece. Not super proud of that, but that's what I do. I want you guys to know that I am not a perfect human being here by any stretch. This is really a lovely color. It's not one that I would ever in a million years find myself using, except that when you dilute it, when you water it down, it's super subtle and soft looking, and nothing like, you know, the color from the bottle. So that's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to dry it. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Limbabadora. Hi, Vera. Hi, everybody. Okay. Normally I would do another light wash on here, but I'm not going to. So what I wanted to show you, my sunflowers, I am definitely not known for my florals, people, and I don't pretend to. I am a folk artist. But this is kind of how I've always done it. So I give myself the oval or the circle of the sunflower, and I, you know, I have been known to actually whip out a stroke brush for this. Do I have one here? Of course not. So I'm going to use the 4 Ultra Round. And the only thing about that is when I do my petals, they're nice for the sunflower because they give me that sharp little point. And I start from the edge of the oval and go outward. So I'm going to start with Antique Gold. This time I don't have any water, so it's going to be pretty thick, straight paint. So I'm going to come in and start anywhere. So I'm just going to kind of press and pull out. You can leave a little bit of space. I hope this is showing up. Go right over the stem. I like to kind of make them go in different directions, kind of, because that's nature. And nothing's really perfect out there, right? And as I get around to the top, I make them a little smaller sometimes to imply, you know, the depth. And sometimes I end up just doing silly blotches. Okay. You can tweak it. All right, I'm going to dry. Oh, my palette just fell again. Oh God, welcome to my world, people. It is not pretty. Okay, so that was Antique Gold, and it's very thick, and some of this isn't even dry, so I'm walking on the edge here. The other color I used is Moon Yellow, or it's a Golden Straw. I don't remember. Wait a minute. I don't remember. I gotta look at my directions. This is bad. This is bad. Moon yellow. Whew. Moon yellow. Okay. So now this is just kind of the filler in. And you don't have to put them everywhere. And a lot of times what I like to do is just take a little of the anti-gold and the moon yellow together. And kind of tap them in here and there. I mean, you don't want it to look too checkerboardy, you know, too perfect. So, okay. So now, quick dry. I am looking at my directions. 2, 4, 8. What size scumbler did I use? Okay. I am going to use, because the only one I have here is the 4. Normally, I probably, for me personally, would use the 8, but I don't recommend that for you guys. So this, I'm going to load in burnt umber, straight up and down, like a lot. You can start in the center and just stipple. And stipple right up to the edge. And I'm using the scumbler because I want that fuzzy edge to kind of imply seeds. And fast, fast, fast. The actual arc part of this one is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Rickwood Red. This honestly is a solid base coat, and I know the windows are milk chocolate wash, plantation pine roof. The anti-gold border, which it starts off buttermilk. You put the anti-gold, obviously black checks on there. You could definitely use a flat little small flat brush for the checks. Okay, so dry. Okay. And come back in with some black. And I just stipple the inside, kind of, you know, that darker center part of the sunflower. That's basically what it is. Just kind of implying that. Now I'm going to come in with the 4. And I don't know why, but I've always used country red for the seeds in my sunflowers. Not all of it, but some of it. And I like to just come in with very tiny little dots right on the edge. Not everywhere, just kind of randomly here and there. You honestly don't even notice it unless you really like study it. So then I'm going to come in inside and just do little dots. Sometimes I do them in a row. Sometimes just randomly, 1 or 2 here and there. You don't want this to be too uniform and too perfect. If you look at the sample piece. Then you're going to come in with anti-gold. Do the same thing. I've got a cat that lives in the barn here, the studio. His name's Fritz. And he's under the table rubbing my legs back and forth, walking back and forth, but like petting himself. He's very sweet. He really is very sweet, but incredibly annoying. And yesterday I tripped over him and fell. And I landed on, of course there was nobody out here. I landed on my 2 knees, which I don't know if you, well, most of you know, because it's like all I talk about, my 2 knee replacements the past 2 years. So here I am out in the studio all by myself on my knees, and you know, I'm thinking, okay, this is not good. This is no way, there's nobody around to help me up, and here I am. And I'm doing a plantation pine stem right now. And And I realized that I wasn't in pain and I hadn't hurt myself, just my pride. So thank goodness I was like up against this table and pulled myself up. And I couldn't believe it. I was so proud of myself that I had actually kneeled. Well, not really kneeled, you know what I mean. Anyway, long story short, I took a few Motrin, and I'm here to tell the story. So, all right, that's pretty much it. Other than taking a couple of upturned leaves. So just start from where you're going to go obviously in the opposite direction. So kind of press and kind of wind it, curly cue it. And this time, though, that's the moon yellow. This is going to be anti-gold, just one. And you can take, now my brush is really watered down. I'm using it as kind of like a liner at this point. You can do some of the little tendrils coming out. Getting kind of fancy here. That's it. I'll show you the crow super quick. Okay, so as I said, super watered down. Wouldn't be able to do this if I didn't have, plenty of water on my brush. Mop. Because I can't stand brush lines, right? And dry. I'm going to do the no, I don't know. Do the moon yellow beak. That's what I've got on the original. And you could give him a little moon yellow eye if you wanted to, or a white one. And the white, remember earlier I was saying about the wing. I'm like right on the tip and barely applying any pressure. Now I just kind of messed up a little bit, so just come back in with a little black and fix it. And I was saying that the beak doesn't necessarily show up against the background. Come in with a little burnt umber. See, if you have too much paint on there, just put the tip of your brush in the water, take it out, blot it, and come back in and kind of shave some of that paint away, especially in this little teeny tiny area. But if we didn't do that, it wouldn't even, his beak really wouldn't even show up. And a black nostril. Honestly, I would probably do that with my rapidograph pen. I'm filling in his little legs now. Now I'm playing because there's nobody here to turn the camera off, so I'm going to keep going until my son comes back. Let's have him holding what? Let's have him holding a leaf. There. I'm going to dry it. I think I will do a little more Indian turquoise. And that's the thing. You can always go back in and do this after. It's not like, you have to, it has to be perfect before you can move on. As many times as, build up your depth of color through the layers. You decide how dark or how light you want it. Just because I like it, you know, with a little more color doesn't necessarily mean you have to have it that way. Make it your own. So, July down, August almost down. Woohoo! I think when I get back from Hoot, which is in a couple of weeks, I will do September and October, and then try and get November and December done at the same time. I hope you're happy with that, guys. Then we'll start in January, February, March, April. I think. I can't remember if I did April or not. I think I did, didn't I? Okay, what I've done, there's a burnt umber float around the inside of that oval. I'll show you that. This is, the number 8 works good for this because it holds so much and you don't necessarily have to even go back and reload this. You can do the whole inside of the oval with just one float. Okay, that's pretty watery, so I'm going to blot it. The downside of using the 8 is that it holds almost too much water sometimes for a large piece like this. So I usually start someplace inconspicuous, like maybe where this leaf is right here. So I will come in and let me show you on the back of it how I would do it. I come right on the edge and press back and forth in kind of that manner. Start again. Okay. I feel it's the frame of the piece, you know, it just kind of frames everything in and sets everything in place. Got a little heavy-handed there. Now I know some of you are probably freaking out because it looks really dark, but we're going to come back in with a soft mop. A lot of this, I mean, obviously it's the wet float that I use and the angle of the brush and the actual brush. But a lot of the softness, softness of the piece is because of the floating and the mopping. The mopping really gives the wash another dimension, and yeah, so my son's still not back, so I'm going to keep going. I don't care. It'll be an hour-long video by the time we're done. So again, I don't have on here. I did use a sepia color, brownish, reddish color micron marker, and to do my lettering. The downside of that for you would be that if you have your transfer letters on and you go to erase it, once you do that, with a micron especially, you're going to erase your lettering because it's not, the ink doesn't adhere the way India ink does. So that's not really a factor for me right now. This is a good time to talk about my rapidograph pen. Okay, Kohinoor. These are, you can probably even get these online. You can Google anything these days. It is available from Viking Woodcrafts, or it was. Now, this chamber, wow, this is empty. I don't have any ink close by, or I would fill it for you. But this gray piece right here, the gray, yellow, tan, they symbolize the size of the point. This is I don't know. This is a 0.35, which is considered kind of a medium fine point. I usually like the 0.30 is a little finer. The 0.25 is too fine for me. I find it gets clogged up very easily. So I like the 3.0. And you would fill that, screw everything back together. Here he is now, but I'm going to finish this real quick. So just to do the lettering, I just write my letter and fill it in. Hi, Zach. We've been waiting for you.
Done?
Almost. So the August word, inspirational word, is witness. There you go, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining me, and I love you all. Thank you.